Good afternoon and welcome to Toronto Police Headquarters. Today we're holding a news conference to launch a pedestrian safety initiative called Road Safety, It Starts With You. I would like to introduce Traffic Services and Parking Enforcement Superintendent Scott Baptist.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a very troubling situation. So far this year, since the beginning of the year, 7 individuals have lost their lives on Toronto streets in collisions. Every collision is preventable. There is something that we can all do, and that's why we're launching this campaign. Road safety, it starts with you. And we need to have communication. We need people talking about this, and we need to change the behavior of people in our city. Last year, in 2017, 62 people were killed in collisions on Toronto roads. Of those 62, 36 were pedestrians. And of those 36, 21 of those collisions involved mid-block crossings. Mid-block crossings, turning left turns at intersections, these are all contributing factors. As we move in the City of Toronto towards Vision Zero, where we work towards having no one killed on our streets in collisions on our roadways, there are so many behaviors that we need to change. And a big part of it is distraction. We need people to put down their devices. We need people to do the most basic things to look out for themselves. We need them to take the earbuds out. We need the hoodies pulled down. We need people to look both ways. It sounds like something that we tell our kids. Well, guess what? We need to tell our kids that. We need to be talking about looking both ways before we cross the road. We need to put the phone down, and we need to put our attention where it needs to be. Pedestrians need to be paying attention to what they're doing when they're walking on our roads, when they're crossing our streets. And people that are driving need to change their behavior as well. Cars traveling too fast on our street. Motorists are not paying attention. Motorists are distracted. Impaired driving continues to be a leading preventable cause of death in our city. So today we're launching this campaign, and we are asking you all to please think about your behavior on our roads. We're working with many different partners. We have a lot of people that are trying to help us with this, but we need the conversation to start in homes across this city where people talk with their children, children talk with parents and grandparents. We need to talk about how we use our roads so that we can all be more safe. Today, it is my pleasure to have with us Adina Lebeau. Adina is an ambassador from CARP Toronto, the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. Seniors are overrepresented in our pedestrian collisions. It is so important that seniors are talking about this and that are doing what they can to keep themselves safe. And I'd like to introduce Adina to say a few words. Adina.
Thank you very much for inviting us. We are glad to be working with both Toronto Police Services and Transportation Services on the Vision Zero rollout and this much-needed awareness campaign that we are starting off today. Seniors and 55 plus make up close to 60% of the fatalities. And we were shocked to learn that in 2017 there were over 1,600 collisions between pedestrians and cars and vehicles, and the death toll could have been much higher. This is 6 to 7 collisions per day, 365 days per year. This is way too high. While we're working on Vision Zero with our partners on the long term to create senior safety zones, red light cameras, no right turns on red, no left turns on yellow and red, all individuals have to take responsibility for their own behaviors. especially in the winter when the weather could be icy and visibility is low and walking is treacherous. And we are thrilled that the police officers this week from January 16th to 22nd, police officers and parking officers will be educating people on the street. They will be looking for people committing offenses on the street. They will be educating and giving tickets. They will be targeting motorists and pedestrians and cyclists in road safety behavior. They'll be looking at mid-block crossings, which is one of the biggest ones. And therefore, Torontonians will have some opportunities to learn some things. We all need to work together to bring the numbers down. No deaths are acceptable. And we're looking to have less people this year, not more people, by the end of 2018. We hope you will help us get the word out. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, there were 74,355 collisions on Toronto roads last year reported to us. It's a staggering number, and a number of those collisions are all as a result of the types of behaviors that we're talking about today. This is not a blame game. We're not pointing fingers at anyone. We're pointing fingers at everyone. Every road user plays a role in keeping this city safe and in keeping each other safe. We have a civic duty to do what we can to make our roads more safe so that people are not seriously injured and killed. Motorists, please slow down. Put your device down. Look up. Look down the road. Create more space around you. It's so important that everyone plays a role. Pedestrians, cross at a signalized intersection. Cross at a crosswalk. If you're going to cross mid-block, make sure that you're seen. Make eye contact. Wear brighter clothing. It's so important that we all play our role to keep our roads safe. I would also like to take a moment and introduce you to Elena Datcu. Elena was a victim of a collision where she was struck as a pedestrian. Her story is compelling, and I think it's very important that we all heed her warnings. Dina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the police for the program that they have. The accident happened in October 31st at 8:47 in the morning. And my husband left me at that morning at the corner of Stills and Laurel Leaf. Stills East, Laurel Leaf South. And I wanted to go to Yonge and Eglinton for a walk. And he left me there in the morning for me to take the bus. I was waiting for the light to turn green, and the car passed and just tried to cross the street, and another car hit me. Unfortunately, I cannot remember anything from the accident, only white patches and a lot of pain on my head and my body. That's it. And after I found myself on the asphalt, blood too, and from my nose. And I knew that I was in an accident, so I moved my toes to see if I can be able to walk again. So I moved my toes. I knew it. I said, I'm not going to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So people came around me. I called my husband. I could call my husband, and I said, look, it's not my fault. Somebody just hit me on crossing the street. So that's it, is the story. I cannot remember too much from the accident. That's it. And I have, for the pedestrians that cross the street, we have to be careful. Even if it's green for ourselves, we have to check if other drivers, they they might not pay attention and they might hit us. For the drivers, even if they turn left or right, they should pay attention to the pedestrians. I saw a lot of drivers that they are more aware. They try to be careful not to hit another car, especially if it's a big intersection, but sometimes they don't pay too much attention to the pedestrians too, that are at the corner and they want to cross the street. My life now, pain on my left side, on my left leg. I have a lot of nightmares, and I'm afraid when I'm in the car with my husband or anybody else. I'm really afraid. I don't want to be in a car, and I didn't go out yet by myself. I'm afraid to cross the street, to walk on the street. So I have to ask my husband to drive me everywhere where I need.
Thanks. Thank you, Elena. Thank you so much for coming. It is so important that every person talk about this. If we're going to change the behavior in the City of Toronto and make our roads safer for all of us, it is critical that we all play a role. It's critical that we talk about this. Families need to talk about this. Please, seniors are overrepresented. Speak with your parents. Children, speak with your parents. Parents, speak with your children. It's so critical, and it is absolutely critical that you cross the street as if your life depends on it. Pedestrians are vulnerable road users. You will not win if you're hit by a car. So that is our message. We are going to be going to the street for the next week with an enforcement and education campaign where we're going to be speaking with a number of people, different community groups, officers from across the city, from the 17 different divisions, from traffic services and parking enforcement. Our officers will be out, we'll be handing out literature, and we will be conducting select enforcement. So please, we can all play a role. Please do your bit and do what you can to make our roads safer for everyone. And if anyone has any questions, we will gladly take them.
Sir, according to, you mentioned this is not a blame game, you're not trying to point fingers at it.
Yes.
But according to city stats, 2/3 of pedestrian injuries are caused by driver error. And yeah, that's maybe from the videos that you made. 3 out of the 4 videos there are aimed at pedestrians and telling pedestrians to do something different. So some people see campaigns like this as a blame game, as blaming victims, and want more focus on driver responsibility, want the majority of the focus really be on the drivers. What's your response to that? Is this victim blaming?
No, I really don't believe it is. As I said, every single road user plays a significant role in making our roads safe. Every person that starts a car and drives down the street, every pedestrian entering a roadway, every one of us has to play our role to keep our roads safe. Unfortunately, and it's a fact, a pedestrian being hit by a car, the pedestrian is going to lose. It is so critical that we all do what we can to make our roads safe. People are seriously injured and killed too regularly, and it's important that we get that message out so families are talking about it. And as you mentioned, motorist behavior is a significant contributing factor. We need all motorists to slow down, make more room around their car, make eye contact, get their eyes up, put the phones down, drive sober, all of the things that contribute to road user safety. It is so critical that we all do what we can.
So we will have the enforcement next week. Is it including ticketing those pedestrians who is not focusing on the road?
Yes.
You will ticketing them?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the charge or the fee?
There are a number of different offenses. They have a fine schedule associated with it. The fine is approximately $175.
To clear, Superintendent, is this in direct response to the deaths so far this year? This wasn't planned earlier?
No. This has been something that we've talked about for the last 2 months. I'm new to this role. I took on this role at the beginning of November, and we've been talking about trying to get a word out so that families would be talking to each other, so that we could try to initiate a social change. Police enforcement is only one part of this. We work with a number of different major stakeholders, the Traffic Injury Research Foundation, the CAA, MAD, Arrive Alive, Drive Sober, the Toronto Transit Commission, City of Toronto Transportation Services. We are very committed to working in partnership, but to influence social change, we cannot do that alone. It is so important that families are talking about this and changing the way that they use our roads.
Educating our people, as in the drivers and pedestrians, apart from the officers going on the road, are there other measures that you guys are taking to enforce proper education?
Yes, there are discussions being held around the city. Our auxiliaries are actively, we have literature that we're handing out. We have discussions that are happening in local divisions through community police liaison committees, through our neighborhood officer program, talking with different communities, a number of different ways that we're trying to get the message out. So people are talking about this. Thank you.
Any black spot for the pedestrian on the streets, like in North York or especially in Scarborough downtown, any black spot for like, the pedestrian usually is in?
Well, Scarborough is not unique when you think of things like the more open roadways. When you look at communities like Rexdale, the rest of Etobicoke, Scarborough, up into North Toronto, North York, where roads are a little more open, vehicles tend to travel more quickly. Because of that, pedestrians are even more vulnerable if in fact they're hit, and we tend to see that in our data.
The most recent death was a young girl who was killed yesterday. Do you have any update on that situation? Might there be charges against anyone in that case?
That is a terribly, terribly tragic situation in every respect. A beautiful 5-year-old girl is dead. We are investigating that to the very best of our ability. We are doing everything that our reconstruction team, our criminal investigators, everyone is doing what we can to get to the bottom of that situation. And once we get to that point, then we'll make a determination on appropriate action. And at this point in time, I'm not prepared to speak to that further.
I just spoke to the person who owned the vehicle, who left the vehicle unattended.
As I said, it's a very, very fresh, ongoing investigation. I really can't get into that right now.
If you looked at other studies in the city, big population centers like Tokyo, where pedestrians cannot cross at all while cars are going, and then it's an all cross, like we sort of had a Young
Yes.
and Dundas. Should we implement more of those so pedestrians aren't walking in front of cars?
We are very, very blessed to work very closely with the Traffic Injury Research Foundation, one of the premier organizations in this country representing us on road user research. And the Traffic Injury Research Foundation works with other researchers around the world trying to find best practices that can be utilized in engineering, enforcement, education, et cetera. So we're always looking at new ideas and working with our partners through Toronto Transportation. And so, yes, in short, we are looking at everything. We want to do anything we can to try to make our roads more safe. Thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate you coming. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes today's conference.